What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Vexus, the lurking legend, head cook of the Eternal Dawn. Y'all can just call me Vex. I'm so happy to be here with my wonderful crew. We're going to be talking about the latest and greatest chapter of One Piece, chapter 1153. Before we get into all of that, I got to introduce them. But before I do that, I want to tell you all to like the stream and make sure that you guys are subscribed. That really helps us. That goes a long way. And without further ado, we've got our wonderful helmsman of the Eternal Dawn, Knack Talk. How you doing today, brother?
Doing grind. I can't wait to get into this chapter. A little bit more of the flashback of old Monkey D. Harold here, so
Crazy.
Can't wait to discuss it.
Next up, we have the historian and first mate himself, Kube of the Red Sea. How you doing, brother?
Man, dude, Oda's not cooking. We are burning in Elbaph right now. It's just peak fiction. And I'm just excited, you know. This flashback might be it's really strong, and yeah, man, I'm excited to talk about it.
Hell yeah. And then last but not least, we have the captain of the Eternal Dawn himself. Somebody I love like a brother, one of my closest friends in this world, Straw Hat Lucas. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I am so excited to see this. Also, just baby Loki, you can come home with me, Bubba. I got you. I know you're trying, but I got you.
You could take him.
I will. My fathering instinct wants to, bro. He just needs a good hug from dad, you know?
Oh my goodness.
He needs to be cleansed.
But yeah, this was a crazy chapter. I have a few things I want to ask later on, but we'll get through kind of the breakdown, going page by page, panel by panel before we get into that. So make sure you guys stick around, and like I said, like the stream, subscribe, join the Discord. We're constantly yapping about One Piece, but we have to start with one of my favorite things to talk about lately, and that's the cover story. We got 5 more years, baby. Oh man,
we're so happy.
I love to see it. Yamato living their best life. Kiku's a real one. Am I wrong? I don't remember this person. Like who is this?
I remember she was in Wano. It's just I forgot who it was.
She got her pinky
I
out.
believe the term is concubine. Could be wrong. I think she is, though. She's one of the concubines.
Yeah.
I thought it was. I'm gonna be real. I thought it was Kinemon's wife at first, but then I was like, no,
she was introduced. She was one of the friends of. She's a friend of Kinemon's wife. It's just we concentrate on Kinemon's wife, but they were together. That's why her face tells me something. I just didn't connect to her name.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember her at all. I'm gonna be completely real, but I mean, hey, she's out here. She's slaying, sure. Like, but seeing Kiku and Yama, bro, just like happy and just like, you know, I don't know. This is cool. This is wholesome. Like, I honestly am. The more I meme on it, the more I'm actually getting closer to 100% on it. 5 more years. Let's keep this going. I love this energy. You know.
Honestly.
Yeah, I love seeing Kiku. One of my favorite characters from Wano, if I'm being honest. And it's cool to see that she's a Daimo now. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, and you know, and I'm liking that, you know, cover story of Yamato. You know, maybe she'll be the next cover story. He'll be the next cover story, lending Yamato a hand. I had to. I'm
crazy. That's crazy cute.
Really, Cube in front of my coffee.
I also think, because I don't have much more to say about the cover story, but this author's note is kind of concerning. Did you guys know they have emu merch?
Yes.
That's crazy. And am I the only one who thinks that's crazy? Or is that's just bizarre, right? Like, how do you...
The blob.
I mean,
listen, the plush is my favorite thing ever. I'm willing to spend like the $200 to import it because it is so massive. And, like, I keep seeing people like posting pictures of it, like enjoying a McDonald's #1 or riding in the back seat with the seatbelt on. It's got its little emu hand over the seatbelt. Like, it's so funny.
You guys didn't know that's how they got the 20 kings. They all got an emu plushie 800 years ago. That's how they formed the world government.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Man, Dressrosa was all about toys. Fury concluded. No, I'm just kidding.
Theory crafted.
Oh,
Looks
man.
like Alf. If you ever watched Alf back in the day, that's what it reminds me of.
Yeah, I sent a picture in chat.
Posted in the general on the Discord. Link in the description.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's Alf. that's Alf. That's why.
But yeah, we pick up the chapter kind of right where I think we were all hoping we would have left off, and it's showing us the upbringing of King Harold, former King of Elbaph, and it shows just the most adorable like picture of Dory and Brogy and him. And this dude is huge compared to them, but this is so cute.
So
look at these little chads.
Oh no, it's so good.
This is
Little
ASL of Elbaph.
ASL, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of
American
makes
Sign Language.
yeah okay. That kind of makes the current events really sad, like even
Yeah,
more
it
so than
does.
they were for me, because I binged through, like I saw Dory and Brogy when I was like a kid watching like OG One Piece, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I binged and got all the way through the anime in more recent years, like starting in 2019. And I honestly haven't, like, I know people like Kube has been week to week for a very, very long time. So like the whole Oimo and Kashi and Dory and Brogy thing, it's been with you for a lot longer than it has for me. But it didn't actually hit me that they got flipped, and like as hard as like a lot of other people in the community. But as somebody who hasn't spent as much time with it, this is kind of the moment, seeing them as like smiling happy kids with Harold here. This is where I'm like, oh man, that's sad.
Yeah. And look at I love the look on Dory's face. He's like looking up at Harold as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's so sweet. I think ASL is the perfect comparison. This is basically three brothers, three sworn brothers.
Look
One
at
is the
that.
king, the other the two giant warrior
Exactly.
pirate captains.
Yeah. And considering that it was Sabo, the brother who was from royalty,
Mm-hmm.
that was having that crisis of him being privileged, seeing the other people suffering, and am I as bad as those
Yeah.
people, stuff like that. So it's like you were seeing that with Harold, so that's pretty cool.
It's a good parallel right there.
And then in the next panel, we get some more narration about him and his upbringing and how freaking strong this dude is, and some classic Oda silhouettes. Look how huge that sword has to be. Like that's that's what jumps out to me on this little bit here, is like that's massive.
That's the sword at Elbaph.
Maybe it is the sword at Elbaph.
The hilt.
They're never gonna mention. They're never gonna mention
Yeah,
it.
never.
guys.
Yes, we're
The
missing
hilt
the sword.
looks like it's modeled after the Master Sword. Different from the one that's in
Ja Rule.
Jarl's head. I'm doing. But
guys,
yeah, it very similar to the Master Sword.
You
Sorry.
guys don't recognize that sword? That's the sword that Zoro wielded with Sogeking in Eni's lobby.
Oh my god. It's
No
no
storm,
storm.
yeah.
Yeah.
No storm, let's go.
That was pretty intense. That'd be cool if they come back around like that.
Yeah.
That would be cool. That's
No,
the
and,
ultimate Zoro upgrade. Inma, no storm.
think-
He's channeling his hockey.
Next we get a picture of, or a text box from Harold saying that he's like bored and whatnot, and this is like one of the funniest faces. Like this is probably second best Harold face. There's a better one
That's
later
Monkey
in the
D.
chapter.
Harold right
Yeah,
there.
later in the chapter there's a much better panel, but we'll get to that. But it's just so funny seeing this dude just picking his nose. Like I don't know, we get a good amount of characterization from this character for how fast paced things are going to be, because we see him as like a little child. He looks like he's, in human terms, maybe 5 years old in the first little bit, and now he's like looking more like he's in his teens, I guess. Like, so this is closer to the 45
Yeah.
that we saw him in the end of last chapter, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
we're skipping around quite a bit here, even faster paced than like the Kuma flashback, which skipped like 4 years here, 8 years here, etc. You know what I mean? So like this is, I I think I was watching a teching video on it, and it's like it really does. It's crazy to think that there's like on average 3 times the flashback material here than there was for like Kuma or Odin or something, you know, some of those other flashbacks that we've gotten, because this lifespan is just so much longer, you know.
Yeah. There's a chance to span decades throughout this, just as, even with how fast it is, chance to span decades throughout just this tale. I mean, we already have spanned decades with just this one chapter.
Yeah, but we are taken to the Bunt Kingdom in the New World, which is we haven't heard of that. That's a new place on the map for us. Yeah, so it's always cool to get a new island drop. But these guys are just making a huge entrance here, and they think there's like earthquakes going on, and then they find another giant, somebody who they think is an Elbaph giant imprisoned, and like some sideshow in a circus. And yeah, this is crazy. When I was first reading this, I was like, what is Oda cooking? You guys have any thoughts on this whole interaction?
I thought for sure it was an ancient giant.
Did you
She
really?
got big old horns.
Yeah, of course
Those
it
are
did.
fake.
We can't see
I don't
that.
know that in the first panel.
Honestly,
Yeah.
the
I'm in
first
love.
thing that
I knew it. I knew it.
Sorry, Cube.
no, there was something interesting because I've always been wondering where they found him. At least like his lineage can go to, and the fact that it's a place in the New World, so Grand Line. I was wondering if it has connection to Buggy's lineage from one of his parents, because Buggy has that whole clown theme, and it's an island that has. Yeah, that was
That's
the first thought when I thought of this, because he's from somewhere in the New World, in the Grand Line. It could be Paradise in the New World.
Yeah, this little guy with the top hat and the stripes and the whip, the like little ringmaster looking dude. Like, tell me I'm wrong. He kind of looking like Baron Tamago, like, you know what I mean?
Bit, yeah.
Yeah, like that's I don't know.
Right.
Well, think about it, dude. Bunt Kingdom could eventually become part of Whole Cake.
You're not wrong. Yeah, like it's just a part
like,
of the cake.
A
Not
bunt
the whole
cake? Yeah. Well, no, because like a bunt cake. You know what I mean? It seems like little wordplay there from Oda. Because that's the first thing I thought of when I saw the name.
Yeah.
I was like, could it be where Whole Cake, started? Like maybe this is where Big Mom goes to start the whole kingdom of Whole Cake. I hope we get more information on the Bunt Kingdom, at least a little bit, location-wise.
Based off of what we got in this interaction, is that Harold had gotten pissed off with the capture, the captivation of this giant figure, and they had just completely ransacked the joint and taken her off island, and so like I'm not sure we're gonna get too much more on this place in present day, but it's possible. No. But they just destroy this place, and then while they are departing, this lady giant just punches the shit out of him, and this is the best face. This is the best panel of this whole chapter, in my opinion. Look at this man. He's not even mad. He's not even mad. This awoke something in him.
He fell in love, legitimately.
Yeah, this was the best. This was the best.
That's so funny.
Cocky bastard.
I gotta say too, like the panel of her looking at the destroyed kingdom after the slap, and like Oda drew these like shaking lines around her. Ooh, it's probably the best way I've seen some Oda show someone like shaking with anger on panel, if I'm honest. Like something about it, like it hits. Yeah.
And she has a different design from your typical like One Piece female character. Like so I think it's like it's interesting because we get this like goofy reaction of him getting slapped across the face, and it looks very late 90s early 2000s Cartoon Network kind of style, like almost rubber hose, like it's actually almost rubber hose adjacent. And then you get this next panel where she's shaking her fist at him. And again, we're taken back to that kind of like, it's really interesting that in this flashback we see this like, I don't know, it's just different depictions of the world, you know.
I'm gonna say this. She's Deb from Wild Thornberries.
Yeah, dude, she does look like Deb from the Wild Thorn. That's wild.
But we find out that she was not being held there against her will. She was actually saved by these people. And that's why she's so mad at Harold right now. And I like this a lot, is that he just didn't have the whole story and she slapped some sense into him. And then they end up having this like serious interaction. She's actually crying and they go back and they help repair this kingdom that they broke. And I think that really speaks to the character of an individual, because like at first we're given that he's just some chaotic, destructive force of nature who just doesn't have a care in the world. That slap did some real rearranging in his head, I think.
Yeah, and I love the line that she tells him, like, you just happen to be born big. Like, you think that makes you better? And he's like, he's pouting. He's like, I was just born big. You big baby. But I love it. Characterization of Harold in this chapter was phenomenal. What we do, we go back and start rebuilding.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of people talking about the circus parallel here. And this is before we get any legitimate confirmation, but let's be honest, we all knew while we were reading this. This is Haryuden's mom, you know? Like we all knew that as soon as she got introduced, I feel like. But the fact that Haryuden worked as one of the top mercenaries for Buggy post time skip before he became Grand Fleet, right?
Yeah.
And so for him to work, you know, under Buggy, the star clown, the genius jester and whatnot, and for his mother to have been saved by these like circus folk and whatnot. It's like it's a really, really interesting parallel, I think.
I think it's interesting because too, this is only the second giant we've seen act like this towards humans. Like, well, because Dorian Broggie always had like kind of a nice
they're honorable to anybody.
Humans. Yeah, they're honorable
human
to
or
anyone.
not,
Exactly.
you know,
Exactly. But like she was going out of her way to be nice to these people, acting like a prisoner, or like, you know what I mean, a roadside attraction for the help they gave her. Yeah, I'm in love. I could tell immediately that, like Kube said, that this is Haryuden's mother. Also, Vex. I think I found him, by the way. I think I found good old Goldberg's papa.
Oh, you think you found him?
In this, yeah, because last chapter, if you guys didn't know, last chapter reaction, we're like, which one of these is going to be Goldberg's dad? The one that she's hugging in the next page after she's helping the people. Yeah, that's gotta be Goldberg's papa. I love this.
Still kind of caught up on these uniforms, man. Why are they wearing those black jackets with the gloves? Okay, his uniform keeps coming back.
It is really interesting. It does kind of put more into perspective the scene of Harold becoming unalive. That, like, I don't think that there's anything too much to read into in that scene if it's been a thing since like almost 100 years back, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep.
But I don't know, it is curious for sure. But they talk about how they have interesting like ways of making clothes, they have interesting spices, interesting construction, and like they're merging cultures here and whatnot. It's like a really quick series of events. I mean, obviously it took a lot more in real time, but like for us seeing it unfold over a page and a half, this was a really, really cool and interesting way of Oda showing Harold opening his eyes more to other cultures and stuff like that. And I think that's pretty cool.
Doing the Nika dance.
I was about to say, not only that, but he's sharing his culture as well by showing them the Nika dance and everything, doing the Dundo Toto. You know what I mean? Like, it's so well done.
I seen that, I actually cheered. I was like, yes, Like, is this how people started hearing about the legend in the past 100 years? Because please.
And in that same
I
panel,
was cheesing.
the destruction of anything in this world is a waste. In bold,
Yeah.
right there. It takes up half the
for real.
page, it feels like. And that is such a
Got goosebumps right
massive line. Like, yeah, I love this character.
Also,
and
I-
go ahead, go ahead.
I do like the symbolism of the whole interaction. You have Harold, who's actually in the Nika culture, but the one who's actually acting more like the culture itself without being part of it is Ida.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
he calls them puny dolls, all of those stuff. He does a Nika dance. She doesn't do the Nika dance, but she's actually like doing what Nika, it seems what Nika is supposed to do. So it's kind of interesting, like we're seeing those two parallels. Like this could be something that was back in Ancient Kingdom as well.
Well, it makes
Those
me
who
wonder
say and those who do.
if those on Samuani or whatever her homeland is called. I can't remember exactly.
Samuanai.
Lanai. I was close. Closer than I thought I'd be. But it makes me wonder if they worship Nika, and if they do it in the same way the Elbaph giants do.
Yeah,
You know
it is
what I mean?
interesting because there is, when they were talking about like all Elbaph warriors wish to be like or be called the sun god, we find out that's like Rode and Loki and even Harold's dream was like it all. That's like, if that extends outside of Elbaph to other giant culture, it's really interesting. But yeah, we do get a confirmation that in the South Blue is where Ida is from. A place called Samuanai Island, which is also very, very likely where Jaguar D Sol is from.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Because he's from the South Blue. Like,
yeah, we don't get a
it's gotta be
confirmation.
it.
We don't get a confirmation, but it's very
No, but-
likely. So I that's hype. Sol is in my top 5. I love Sol
Huge.
with all of my heart,
It's huge.
and that
Also-
means
It
that
explained the nature of him too, because
we don't know her
he
full
kind
name.
of follows
she could be
that
D
as well.
Clan.
But
Yeah.
yes,
Ooh.
exactly. But she also follows the nature of Saul, like to not, look down upon non-giants, to work with humans.
But this is actually
100%.
so this is a bit further, but you know how they talk later, how we know that there was something different about Ida, like she would not be accepted, right, because of her lineage. That now I was wondering because what if it's about the D clan? What if in the old culture of Elbaph you need to have a D in your name? And when Saul, I went to look back when Saul was talking about the D clan thing, he's added to that's why we're not the same as the giants of Elbaph. Where she comes from, they don't persecute people if they have a D or not. While in Elbaph, it's an old culture where some people are stigmatized, discriminate people in a way. Like you can do certain things. That can also explain why Howard then had to create his own giant warrior pirates when there's already the giant warrior pirates. Like I'm wondering if Elbaph, like the D clan, limits you if you don't have a D in your name, but they're like literal. You know what I mean? You have to be born with that name. And Saul said you don't have to be born. Giants and humans have that name. They share that name together. So what Vex is saying, I was wondering if that could be also the difference.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean it's almost like Ace and Luffy said to Sabo. Anyone can inherit D.
Yeah.
In so many words. That's obviously not what they did. We'll throw it in here, Sadibo. But I think that right there was Oda. It's not about lineage. It's something you
But also,
earn
if
or
Odd is
are
a D,
given.
then, like Will just said, Howard's a D. And that
Yeah.
means we have another D
He's sick.
member on the. Oh man.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
Let's go. I'm totally here for it because, yeah, I think it fits. I think it's perfect,
I do too.
especially with the way the chapter unfolds and she was
Yeah.
pushed away
Yeah.
for her blood.
I think another interesting thing to talk about right here next to the reveal that she is from the South Blue is Harold he's kind of mind blown about it too. And he says that you had to cross over the blood-soaked serpent, which is something we've
Beats.
heard mentioned before. That's clearly
Yep.
it's the red line.
Oh yeah,
But like
but we get confirmation.
yeah, so like we heard about this with Dorian Brogy, and then there's even like mention in the mural of something kind of like this. And so it's like it's really interesting because to see how these cultures from long ago view the world, it's just always nice to get more perspective, I think. And this was This is really, really cool, and I don't know, man. Like I'm a sucker for flashbacks. It's like every time we get to add like a bit to the timeline, because if you go like 100 years back, it starts to get really barren. There's not too many big, entries to the One Piece timeline, and I've spent a lot of time on that wiki page specifically. So getting a lot more from it, this feels huge to me. This is what I, as a fan, really appreciate.
Yeah.
I just want to bounce off that because I wanted to ask you guys actually, because at first I seen this panel here where they are explaining all that, and I thought they were looking at people from Torino Kingdom. But if they've never passed the red line, then they wouldn't be able to get to the New World part.
Yeah,
or sorry, the Paradise section.
That would be South Blue. Torino is South Blue, I believe. But yeah. So they're like, they're going around and seeing these. Do you guys think this is a place we know? These people?
I'm not sure, because I thought Jaya at first, but that wouldn't make sense because the Shandorians would already be in Skypiea by this
I thought it was literally Skypiea because of this shoulder tattoo,
Yeah.
but yeah, that would have been on the Paradise side of things with the East Blue and South Blue. This would only be New World, or very unlikely, but still possibly the North or West Blue.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then I love this little panel of Harold coming out of the water, because that is actually insane that I've never considered. Giants swimming and taking out ships from under the sea would be absolute carnage, bro.
Look imagine how big that shark is. Like that.
Right?
Think about Little Oars Jr. and Marineford, like how much damage he did.
Oh man.
That's
Well, we can get to a discussion on Little Oars, because I think that might be something of a parallel with Loki and the Grand Fleet. Yeah, well, I mean, Little Oars Jr. wasn't necessarily a captain for Whitebeard, but he showed up when he needed him. Right? And it was like a giant that was on his crew that wasn't on his crew. I think that's a similar way they're going to go with Loki.
Interesting. Like the Little Oars Jr. was one of the Allied 50 captains, so he was his own captain. Right. He had his own crew entirely, and I could very much see, like Dorian Broggie, like if Hydrogen and Loki come out of this in a more amenable relationship, you know what I mean? That like
yes.
I think that would be really, really interesting if they were co-captains of their own, like, like the new Giant Warrior Pirates, and sailed alongside, not necessarily underneath, but alongside the Straw Hats. I definitely don't. After this chapter, I never had a huge beef with Loki. I heard as soon as the whole like join my crew panel happened, a lot of people in the community were very upset. to put it very mildly, I would say. People on the internet being mad, who would have thought? But a lot of people were like, no, this guy, and they started like kind of throwing dirt on him. I'm like, listen, he's meant to be not understood and not likable as of what we've seen so far. Clearly we're going to be coming out of this flashback feeling differently. I already feel better about him, but I never was down on Loki. Not from the start, not from the second we met him. I was like, oh, this guy's going to be interesting. I'm going to let Oda cook. I'm going to reserve my opinion. And from what we get later on, which we'll get there, I am more of a fan of Loki now, but that doesn't mean that I think that he will actually become a Straw Hat, like proper. Right. You know what I I mean?
I'm kind of sold on it right now. I'm not gonna lie.
Boo.
But we'll get to that later.
Boo this man.
No, I'll tell you why later. Once we get to like more of the Loki stuff. But
for real.
Yeah, I do have to agree. I love that panel of Harold pulling up the fish. It's just him. It's basically him falling in love and learning how to change his ways. Seeing him also fall in love with the outside world through these little bits of moments is just fantastic. Like
that's a D smile, man. I'm telling you.
But also,
that is a D-plan smile.
Also, what's interesting is we're also seeing since we've been talking, what if there's like a lot of people now that did not like the changes. We're seeing it already. 2 of his guards are saying, oh, it's kind of creepy. Hopefully it's just a phase. We're also seeing like some people are not happy with it. Little by little, which is interesting.
Yeah, and
point out the sword is there on the Elbaph panel. I just want everybody to
it
take
is
notice.
There. Yeah, and again, it's there. Never mentioned. So I'm gonna get that crossed off my bingo card. But yeah, we do get The giant warrior pirates, led by Harold, returning to Elbaph, and he's bringing Ida, and he's here to show her that they're not so savage as she had stated, you know, like it was just a misunderstanding. And it's really cool because we see Harold showing character and being like, hey, I was wrong, I'm sorry, I'll help rebuild, I'll you know, like he bent the knee, he fully was like, hey, I messed up. And so now to see Ida, you know, coming to see the giant, the Elbaph giants, and her to also admit like, hey, maybe I was wrong also. It's just really cool. I like the bits that we get from these two characters so quickly in this chapter, you know.
And the old guard just accepts it. It's like they realize the damage of what's been done over the years, and they're like, this is the guy we need. Because normally you see these stories and the old the elders would be against everything that's happening right now, and they're like, oh, what a change.
Yeah, tumultuous journeys ahead. Yeah, like
I think that this is so cool though, seeing that he immediately shows back up, and you know, people are obviously ready and willing to receive their king. Like this dude is royalty, he's him, he's back. It's been at least 4 long years since he has been back, because there's a little bit of a time jump when we get back to Elbaph in this flashback, and for him to be like, hey, I've seen the outside world, they're pretty cool, we gotta quit being so barbaric, we have to change our ways a little bit. There's still things that we can hold on to of our culture, but like I want to go and shake hands with the rest of the world, and they might be put off by some of those, you know, outdated parts of our culture. And he's like, I think that this will benefit us as well as the rest of the world, and I love that. I think that's so cool. And there are a few people who are like, I don't know, but for the most part it does seem like there's a lot more individuals that are understanding of it. It's not like a full riot breaks out the second he tries to incite any change. Like there is some people who are definitely willing, and it seems that Joe Rule and Jaw Rule are down. Like hey, maybe I was wrong about you, Jaw Rule. Maybe you're chill, but I don't know.
I wasn't.
Maybe. We'll see. We'll see. I got one thing I do want to know. Do you think we're gonna see, and I can't believe I'm drawing a blanket, Morley in this flashback at all, or talk of Morley in this flashback at all?
I don't think so. Currently, with the timeline, this is 105 years back. Morley is currently in Impel Down right now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. When is the break? I thought the breakout was 120 years ago. So he might be around right now.
Pre-time skip, I believe they said 100 years. I don't think that that's like a hard number to abide by, because if something's like 96 years in the past, you could just be like, it's been a century. You know what I mean? So I don't know how much, you know, give and take there is with it. And like they
don't know the exact year anyway. Whoever told us that, I think it was Ivankov who mentioned it, and they didn't even know it was Morley.
Yeah, so I don't think we're actually going to see that, just because of how much more time passes. We're not even halfway through the chapter at this point, you know what I mean? So like it's it'd be interesting, but I think that's for another. I don't know if we're ever actually going to get legitimate Morley flashbacking, but it'd be really cool if we did.
So there is something
I would like to know which...
cool
sorry, Kube, go ahead, my friend.
No, finish your sentence, because it's a different sentence.
I want to know if Morley's from the same tribe or clan of giants as Ida, and we're thinking Saul now, or if he's from Elbaph.
All we know is from the West Blue.
Yeah, the thing is that like I feel like there's probably giant representation in each of the blues, like, and Elbaph is just like one of the most notable places. But something Ida said in this chapter earlier was like, all giants who aren't from Elbaph have to, like, everyone thinks we're savages like you. So I mean, I feel like that isn't just them speaking from like their island's perspective, but there's probably other places as well that giants are from. I don't think it's just 2 locations, you know. So I would be more inclined to believe that. The timelining is not quite right to like as because Mother Caramel was selling off like giants into the military, like the world government, but I think it was like a couple years off from this point. I believe that happened after Harold's return and him trying to make good with other countries.
65 years ago, I believe.
No, it was between 100. She came to Elbaph like 99 years ago, so it's between 99 and 60 years ago.
Yeah, so the Big
for, like,
Mom
40
stuff
years.
specifically was 63 years ago, but she had a long reputation of being in and around Elbaph and dealing with Sheep's House.
For 2 decades.
So like I think that's like in about 6 years time from when him and Ida originally returned to Elbaph. The Sheep's House stuff hasn't quite been set up yet, so for Morley to have already been captured and been in and built down, I don't think there's any connection there. And for them to be from a different blue entirely, that's on a different side of the red line entirely from where Saul and Ida are from, I don't actually think there's a connection there. I think that there's another island, probably multiple that also that also house giants.
I mean, Frankie even said it in his lobby. Elbaph is not where the giants are from. The warrior race migrated on an island called Warland now, and they made a home there. So we know that even the giants from Elbaph came from somewhere else.
San Juan Ida is crazy.
So there's something I caught, and it's a bit of a build-up, and I'm wondering if Otis want to tell us something that happened during the Ancient Kingdom with that trope from that ruler. Otohime is trying to make a deal. When she just convinced her people, she gets unalived. Odin is close to opening the borders. He gets unalived, and now it's almost like we're seeing every like major flashback. We're seeing little by little what happens from the different point of views. Like maybe King Riku is showing the father being taken out. What we didn't see with Sukiyaki, the way he was taken out. So yeah, like I'm wondering if Oda's been trying to retell us the same story that happened in Ancient Kingdom, but from a different point of view every time, giving us all the angles.
Yeah, it seems. Yeah, it's definitely interesting that we keep seeing these kings get like dethroned right before they open their borders. It's almost like that hard 20-year timeline that Odin sent everybody forward to is like you have to wait till then kind of thing.
Yeah, and like I talked about that in the previous discussion really quickly. Sorry to interject, but like there's a level of like predetermined events, because if you have future sight far enough ahead and like, or even I don't know, like I feel like the concept of time is something a lot more fixed in One Piece than what maybe we view it in our real world. And so like with these prophecies and whatnot, so I do think that it's just all of these people were unfortunately too soon. Go ahead.
Too soon.
Sorry.
Yep. No, yeah, I'm glad we're on the same page there. No, I was just gonna bring up real quick that Hyjurden got like a 17-year addition to his age with this chapter, because he was listed as like 68. I want to say 68 or 67.
No, he was 81
before this.
81.
Was he?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Loki.
I could have sworn he was listed.
Loki is
was it
younger.
18
Loki?
years older than Loki. Yeah.
He's 18 years older than Loki. Yeah.
Okay, then maybe that's why I'm confusing it, because I was like, why did he get such an age? But I mean, it makes sense. We saw Colin at 20 years old, and he looked about the same size as Hyjurden during the Big Mom flashback.
Yeah.
No, he's Oda, and it's funny because Oda has mentioned before, like, hey, I'm really glad for whoever keeps track of all this shit that I say and puts it on a wiki, because when I forget, it's really useful. He's specifically said he's like
fuck, when was Hyjurden born?
Yeah, he's like, I don't know. So like I feel like this is one of those moments where he's like, oh shit, let me go back to Whole King. Let me go back to like what did I say back then? This was so long ago.
Yeah,
but he does not retcon anything with this chapter. This is all legit. It all checks out. But yeah, we do actually skip after their return to Elbaph, which was 105 years ago from present day. We skip to only 81 years ago from present day, which is the year that Hyjurden is born. So he's had almost 2 decades now since his return, and since Ida has been in his life to instill change in Elbaph and their ways. But unfortunately, these silhouetted figures, who I can only assume are like village elders from other villages, like Jorul and Jarul, because who else would have authority on a similar level to the king?
Yeah.
But they're saying that we can't recognize her as queen because she isn't from Elbaph descent. So this is very interesting. They won't recognize her as queen because she's from off island, and they probably won't recognize Haryudan as like a legitimate prince or heir to the throne either, which is well, that sucks. And a lot of people I've been seeing have been saying things like, well, he's king, why doesn't he just change things? And like, what I think that opinion is, I get it as a knee-jerk reaction, but he is somebody who is trying to represent and ambassador for both sides, for the outside world as well as for Elbaph. And changing everything all at once is not a great way of going about
a good idea.
Things.
Especially when he's just learned all about like diplomacy and stuff. It makes sense that he would be like, there are some traditions that I just cannot break, and that has to be one of them. You know what I mean? It's something that future generations can break, but with all that I'm changing now, it makes sense that he wouldn't want to change everything. Plus, I'm not gonna lie, Ida is just like, she's got her head on straight. She's like, it doesn't matter. That doesn't change how much I love you. And then baby Haryudan's just adorable. Like, let's be real.
Yeah. I won't
Every time
lie.
Oda draws a baby, I get so happy. Like, look at that little baby.
I'm wondering if Elbaph have a similar, because of the Ancient Kingdom stuff, like Wano. They have a similar setup as in Wano, where every like elder had of a region was a daimyo, and we did see a moment Sukiyaki where he basically daimyos were. Yeah, like, and even though Sukiyaki was a shogun, when they brought him the Odin situation, they forced him to act on Odin, which he then exiled him to Kuri. So I'm wondering if Elbaph have a similar thing where the king does have to follow those elders, like they represent the different regions that make Elbaph, like specific areas in Elbaph. Maybe Jarul and Jorul were two of them, and there are two other ones we never seen, similar to Wano, because they represent those regions, which could be interesting.
Yeah, that is very interesting. Very peculiar, Kube.
Yeah.
So I have a question.
Go ahead.
Actually, now that we're seeing the Estrid panel, we've seen that symbol on her skirt. Do you guys recognize that symbol from what? I know we've seen it.
It looks like the outfit that Vivi is wearing. Or,
it is, but
hear me out, it looks like two swan heads. Bon Clay returning.
Bro said, hear me out.
yeah, like
On this
81 years
panel?
ago.
I'm sorry.
There ain't no hearing me out. Listen, everyone gets it.
Yeah, I think that it's
All right,
really.
can we? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think that it's really convenient, maybe, that these silhouetted individuals who are like, no, she hashtag not our queen or whatever, or like they're like pushing Estrid into the limelight in front of Harold and be like, this is a woman truly fit to be a queen. And instantly I was like extremely sketch of this situation, but like knowing now what we all know, we've all read the chapter at this point, like this is too convenient to me, right?
Yeah, this was planned. I also love that Oda basically just introduced a horoscope chick into One Piece. She's like, I need your birthday. I need what time you were born.
She's a Halloween
The
mom.
vibes aren't right in here.
She's
yeah,
very
she's
witchy.
a Halloween mom for sure.
It's crazy. She's
the
from
earth and the
she's
wind.
from Alcohol Village too, which is like so on the nose.
It all ties in together. Yeah.
Oh
I'm
my
gonna go
God.
deeper than that. It was something that Nike brought up in being in the arc where the accursed prince legend came from Mother Caramel. I'm gonna bet you that village where she comes from must be located in the north. Maybe Sheep's house is also nearby. Like, I'm wondering if this like an area of Mother Caramel bred her propaganda, which Nike was the first to brought out at the beginning of the arc. So I am gonna give him props up that we might be getting.
I just got a message from one of our inside people over at a certain place. Translation notes for this chapter, real quick. The Earthwind Arts is Dai Feng, which, if translated, is a reference to feng shui, which is wind water. That's why she says earth wind. And then Samu Wane, can literally mean not chilly. It's a pun possibly on Samu Kuni.
Lucas trying to pronounce things right now, fighting for his life.
Yeah.
It's a feng shui reference. It's
No, yeah, but then there was another one. Yeah, but then there was the other one. Ida's homeland. So I was trying to read that as well. But it's all good. I don't feel like pronouncing all
I
those
wasn't
words.
super sketch about Ida at all, or Ida at all, or no, I'm sorry, Estrid, until she like straight up said, "Forget about that Eastern woman and her bastard." I was like, all right,
Yeah,
wow.
dude.
Yeah, I don't know.
No.
She's up. Like that's crazy.
We making an enemies right out the gate. Jesus, at least played a part a little bit.
Yeah, her talking about messing with the flow of the energy and the feng shui and all that in the room, and what it's like immediately I was just like, oh yeah, she uses crystals instead of deodorant or something like that. Like I don't like
Right. I'm aligning my chakras.
I don't really like all of this. It's interesting because you're like, oh wow, like King's spirit, like maybe is that conquers hockey or something like that, and then like lethal 5-star configuration. If that is like what it actually translates to, is like, okay, is that like leading into maybe the pentagram, like for the abyss or something like, and like, so there's a lot of things to potentially read into here. I am not so sure that this lady knows at all what she's talking about, so I think that this is just
I don't think she does.
I think this is a big old basket full of red herrings. Like honestly, I've seen a lot of people try to analyze
totally
all of this. And I'm like, I
nope.
think you're grasping at straws right now. You know what I mean? I don't think that this is
He's
something to
believing in the
overanalyze.
old omens. And I
Yeah.
think that's
Exactly.
exactly what happens at the end of the chapter. She's just instantly like believes in all these superstitions.
Yeah, and
She's
go
like,
into
rub lemons
more,
on my feet.
I'll go into more depth on that once we get to the last part of the chapter. But I just wanted to state it here as she's kind of introduced, doing all this kooky witchy stuff. This horse is cool as hell though. Like, are we seeing this? This is so dope.
Yeah, that's Loki's child from Norse mythology, basically. In actual Norse mythology, Loki shapeshifted into a horse and then impregnated another horse, and that's what came out, an 8-legged horse.
Didn't need that.
It's called Sleipnir, and yeah, you don't need to bring that up every single time, Lucas.
I do.
No, you really don't. But yeah, clearly that's where it draws like a inspiration from,
yeah.
but like actual inverse Loki isn't even born yet. So like that's the one thing that is like everyone keeps trying to say like, oh yeah, this and this and this in Norse mythology. Clearly Oda's good at, and like, okay, he's not doing anywhere near a 1-to-1. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
No. Yeah.
There is something that caught my eye before we get to the horse. Ida is from the South Blue, right? I find interesting how she named her. Forget about that Western woman. So I'm wondering
she's
if we're
Eastern.
getting some Eastern woman. I'm wondering if we're gonna get more like lore dump of how they viewed the world back then, because it's.
I think it's just because she lives in the Eastern fishing village.
Well, I think no,
okay.
I think that it's
okay.
So if you look at the way that the One Piece world seems to be orientated, the North blue opposite to the South blue, and the West blue opposite to the East blue. The South and East blue are both on that side of the red line. So calling it like an Eastern affiliated thing, as opposed to in the New World, you're in between the North and the West. So I feel like it could be that also. I don't know.
Yeah, I honestly thought it was just a bit like we saw in Sorbet Kingdom. The North were persecuting the South. So I felt like there was a thing in Elbaph between the different regions. Like the North were the ones who like were a bit more celestial dragon in their ways.
I don't think we know enough about Elbaph geography for us to really make that connection here. So I feel like just knowing worldly geography is maybe the more obvious thing we can connect to here. But yeah, this is supposed to be like some horse of good luck or whatever, which we had previously heard about in 1136. That horse is not making it to Rush Hour 3, unfortunately, but yeah, this is like such a cool design. And then she says like, oh, I'll take all the gold and jewels because Harold doesn't need to, waste this energy or time on all of that and stuff like that. And like immediately I'm like, okay, sure.
Right.
But this is like the first part of the chapter where I was like, hey, maybe she actually does know a little something when she's talking about how they'll take all their meals on silver platters, because that actually is something that in old like feudal and imperial times in Asia and stuff like that, they would eat off of silver platters and drink out of silver goblets and things like that to be able to tell if the food was poisoned. So because it would change colors, it would react in a specific way. So that this little bubble here is like, isn't that just an indulgence? That's actually the one thing she said that made actual sense to me.
That is not an indulgence.
Yeah. Like, so I don't know. That's pretty interesting. But yeah, we get a lot of this new gold digger type character here introduced.
Now I ain't saying she a gold digger.
Wild.
I can fix her.
You can have her. But then we do a bit of a time skip from 81 years back to 70-ish years ago. So this isn't a hard timeline, but we do skip some more ahead. And it shows him talking about advanced navigation techniques, which is really, really interesting to me because it notes the pole star. It says in this translator note that the kanji says the North Star, but like still, like, we don't get a lot of astrological references in One Piece outside of character names, but like actually talking about the stars themselves and not like the Gorosei or like Pluton and Uranus and stuff like that. This is crazy. Am I right?
Yeah,
it's nuts.
It makes a lot of sense too. That is how the Vikings got around the world. They used the North Star.
This could mean that like Elbaph, like, think about it, because this was 70-ish years ago. Maybe they're the ones who helped implement oh, why am I drawing a blank on this right now? Log poses.
I don't know, because we don't have hard information.
Those, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, because he's not holding a pose, he's holding just like a nautical compass right there. So it makes me wonder if they were even a thing at that point.
I had seen somebody else saying that like in this interaction where he's holding up this boat and talking about the North Star or the Pole Star or whatever, the water is drawn very differently, and that people are thinking that this is Wano. And there is even like katana, it looks like, on these people in the boat. So yeah, this would be really interesting if this is him actually interacting with Wano, another closed off nation, to benefit maybe them and their if they were ever willing to travel. Massive. So yeah, but this water is drawn exactly like in that like Japanese like painting style that you've seen, like the wave crashing, like I forget what the style is actually called, but it is notably different from the way that the water is drawn earlier in this very chapter. So I think that is really interesting.
The same flag of one of the specific ships we got in the mural. The same well, it's not a flag, but the mast, it's a sail. There you go. Words, words. But yeah.
Just more on the Wano thing too. Behind Harold is what looks like a bonsai tree, which were also prevalent in Wano. Same with the these little rocky mountain things coming up out of the water.
Karsts.
That's drawn differently too. Yes, I'm not saying that word. Those were also featured at the beginning of Wano when they were in. So this is
heading towards the waterfall.
Solid chance.
This is the huge part about getting to Wano, is the currents all go around these spires, and you have to get the right path to reach the route up.
Yeah, exactly. I really do. So yes, I'm pretty sold.
100% with that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sold that's Wano. Like, legitimately. I didn't even think about that when I first read it, but I heard people talking about it. And I went and reread, and I was like, nah, that hits.
Yeah, it's too close.
That's right. That's it. Button. Yeah.
And he also has visited. He also has visited Ryugu Kingdom. He's been to Fishman Island, and he saw little baby Neptune, which is crazy that this man went that far. because that's
Wild. That means
that's
he could have gone
essentially
further.
exactly.
Yes.
Well, that's essentially him crossing beyond the blood-soaked serpent. Remember, like when he was. So I'm just. It's really crazy to think about that he had gone that far, and
explains how all these cultures know about the giants too. Like probably before this, like we seen that little text box about how the giants were just feared because of the warrior pirates, and before Harold actually spread the news that they're not all savages. That's probably where the reputation changed. It was like, oh, yeah, those giants of Elbaph.
Which
Great
would make
warriors.
sense if Oimo and Kashi were cut off from the rest of giant culture. They would, like, while they were in the Marines, it would even give more credence to why they never left, is because, like, what's out there for us? We're all hated. If they never solved this part of Elbaph, like, it makes more sense to why they never thought to venture outside of the Marines.
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's one thing to say that he is an ambassador for Elbaph and showing like what giant kind is like to the rest of the world, but not only that, he is an ancient giant specifically, which
Yes, sir.
I think is it's even heavier when you weigh that into the conversation of him traveling to all of these places. And like, because of ancient giants, the only thing we've heard of their lore is of Ors himself, who was one of the most heinous criminals, the continent puller himself, who like 400 plus years ago or whatever was like one of the most feared names across the planet. Like that only weather could take this man out. So yeah, like they literally called him a demon. So I think it's even more interesting that not only is he speaking for Elbaph, but like for potentially even more frightful or feared reputation-wise lineage than just giants themselves.
Yeah,
So
I
that's
think
really
it's
interesting.
an awesome series of events. Shifting into what happens the night Loki is born, because we got the village's perspective of this, and now we get to see the night from the actual event. Man, oh man.
This I feel like might be a
This
bit
is
of
tragic.
a retcon. Actually, I remember earlier I said all of this stuff checks out, but there's something here that I'm like, it doesn't quite add up, but maybe there's more to it. Yeah, we do see this healthy baby boy being born 63 years ago
Beautiful baby boy.
at West
Yeah,
Castle.
That's the Antichrist.
That is not.
Hey.
No.
She said, let me get a good
Goodbye,
look at my
monetization.
son's face. And then here we go.
There we
Looking
go,
at this is insane. When I first saw this, I was like, what is Oda doing? Like, wait, what is he doing?
And he was
Yeah,
watching
it
Rosemary's
follows
Baby. Was
the
like, I
old,
got back.
the old Norse like omen of like demon blood and changelings, where if a child would be born with these features, they would eliminate said baby. It's pretty
crazy.
dark
Way to
stuff.
put it.
I think
I mean,
that-
just the
dark
chapter
stuff.
itself is pretty dark. She straight says, "Tell the king it's stillborn and throw it off the cliff into the underworld." That is probably the darkest One Piece has ever gotten. I'm gonna be real.
it's I think that there's been on a cultural scale, there's been way worse things that have happened. On an individual scale, this is up there though. You know what I mean? But like this this is only affecting one life form. We've seen things that have affected generations of an entire country's population. You know what I mean? So I don't think this is the darkest that it's ever gone, but I think that this is extremely messed up. And for them to say like it's cursed, it's a monster, and things like that, like poor little baby Loki.
I'm gonna
This is
say
where.
this.
Oh, go ahead.
It takes a lot to realize that Big Mom is a better mother than Estrid is. That says a lot.
Yeah.
That says a lot.
Oh, you want to talk, Cube? You were over here like Estrid did nothing wrong a few seconds ago.
No. I
Yeah, you
just
should have been like Antichrist.
understand. I understand being frightened of the kid. I did not say what she did was right. I just said, my God, look at that baby.
Oh man.
Every child deserves to be loved, and okay,
I think
Yeah,
that
no.
this.
deserves to be
What
loved.
rings in this moment when we're seeing these two massive panels with the narrator saying, when the Prince of Elbaph stretched his arms into the air, no one was there to take those small hands in theirs. And that just reminds me of what one of my favorite characters in one of my favorite moments said to one of my favorite Straw Hats is Jaguar D. Sol said, "No one is born into this world to be alone." And
Yeah.
that's crazy. Like, Estrid is unforgivable as far as I'm concerned here, and especially without knowing the full context of exactly what is Loki's condition here and there. Like, is he a demon child? Is he cursed? Or is this potentially just a normal birth abnormality, you know, or just like a regular, you know, it's such a oxymoron to say a normal abnormality, but like there is actually a process where babies can be born with snake-like eyes, and I don't know how to pronounce this, I'm so sorry, but you can look it up. It's called like colobomas, Colobomas, and it's effectively a part of your eye is not fully formed before you come out of the womb. So when you come out of the womb, instead of having like circular or radial pupils, you have what looks to be like slitted pupils that look like snake eyes. And there are babies that are born almost every single day that have eyes that look fairly similar. Maybe Oda's playing this up a bit, and maybe this is something completely normal, and she's just too Halloween mom pilled to understand that her baby is happy and healthy, and she's just blowing it up to be something it's not. Maybe he's actually cursed. Maybe there's some like, oh, he's prophesized to kill his dad. I mean, I don't know, maybe there's a lot more to this, but it, like, based off of every interaction we've had with Estrid so far, she has no idea what she's talking about. So I'm inclined to believe that she's fully wrong, and that's just a normal kid there that she's putting a whole world of like bad mojo on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree entirely. I could see how she could interpret it as a like, oh my god, this is an omen or whatever, but we don't know if his ancient giant blood is his eyes are like that, because we don't know how ancient giants' eyes look at birth or even as an adult. We don't know. This is, like I said, this is tragic for me. The whole time I was reading this chapter, like towards this end part, I was just like, man, I wanna pick up that baby and give him some loving. Just give him a big old hug. He'd crush me because he's giant, but I find it beautiful that like in the present day, Elbaph doesn't accept Loki. His mother didn't accept Loki, but Luffy's willing to. He's like, I think this guy's okay. You know what I mean? Like it's very Straw Hat-esque.
Yeah. I think that this gives a little bit more context as well to the interactions we've seen between Haruden and Loki, and Loki specifically saying what he said about Haruden's mom, and Haruden wasn't having it. Is like, did he actually really like mean that? With like, he wasn't standing on that with all 10 toes. I think he is just taking a jab, because I mean, like, hurt people, you know what I mean? And like, he's like, exactly. Look, if I'm gonna be, you know, like criticized for my, you know, for how I was born, you know, what makes you so different? And like, I think that a lot of the interactions which people are holding very critically against Loki that we've seen from previously in this arc, I think are getting recontextualized here in a way that and it's been like 2 panels of this baby so far. We're not even done with the chapter, and I'm already like, damn, I get it. You know what I mean?
Same.
So I was wondering if we're getting something that we got with Sanji and his birth. Sanji's mom took medicine, but she also wished for one of her kids to be a normal kid with emotion, and that's what we get with Sanji, right? And she had that whole thing of, she talks about it was foreshadowed that Loki is going to unalive King Harold. So I'm wondering if it's also similar to Desire. She's self-obsessed over this prophecy that she saw what she saw. Because I find it very interesting. She's the only one really screaming like a crazy person. Yeah. Everyone looks a bit, you know, standoffish, sure, but they're not acting like it's, you know, for a better word, like a demon.
Yeah.
But she's the only one.
Mother Caramel's doing. 100%.
Yeah. Feeding stuff in her mouth.
This because of Mother Caramel, and Mother Caramel's the one who told her long ago that King Harold's gonna be slain by his own son. Then Mother Caramel has influence with these elders we see earlier in the chapter, and they arrange the marriage. It's all just one big con. Take out Elbaph.
Yep.
And also the end of the chapter.
Or put it under world government control.
Not even that. After Loki's birth, they said it. every tragedy that happened on Elbaph was blamed on Loki, the perfect patsy.
Yeah.
Can we talk
and,
about
like,
that baby killing a bear?
Wait, Vex was trying to say something.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
we're not quite there yet, yo. But I don't know. It's interesting her saying that she's returning to her village and she never wants to give birth again. Like she's not thinking of this on a cultural scale, for like the whole kingdom, like for all of Elbaph, for all of Warland, for all of the different. She's just thinking about herself. She's not thinking about Harold or the baby at all. And all of these people are saying like that's the prince. Like you can't do, and like so like for this person to break down and show their true colors and only be focusing on themselves is it's very interesting, because I'm wondering, like, is somebody like this someone who could be influenced by some figures on high, like if Mother Caramel had her fingers in this pulling some strings, or those other village elders that had introduced her in the first place saying that she was fit to be a queen? Like, is there some other string pulling here, and this was just somebody who had enough tunnel vision to be fooled easily enough? Like, so I'm wondering here what lies above Estrid in like this whole game here, and how Loki came into be and the downfall of Harold, because I'm 100% something's fishy, you know what I mean? But I don't think it's Estrid herself. I think she's too vapid, too shallow to have pulled any of that off. And in this moment, it does seem like a fairly genuine reaction to something horrible happening, you know, in her mind.
This face she makes when the guard tells her that Loki's climbing back up is raw. Like she's terrified and angry, and then she passes out. Like yeah. So
I feel like this being like maybe an Orochi type figure, and there's like somebody more powerful actually calling the shots behind them, and they're just like a face of like the operation, so to speak. I don't know, but I do think that there is some form of machinations being implemented here that are systematically dismantling Elbaph from the inside, from the top, you know?
Yeah, I think so as well. Like I said, I think it's in cahoots with the world government.
As soon as Harold started changing the old ways, I think this started the snowball. Like, yes, we see the public, they're all supportive, but it's never the public that you have to worry about. It's the people that you're taking control from.
I think the timeline. Loki changes 105 years ago. Harold started changing 105 years ago. He meets Ida, right? Yeah. 100 years ago, Mother Caramel decides to infiltrate Elbaph. It could be corrected. They didn't like what was happening, so they infiltrated.
Well, I mean,
it's savages.
It's fishy. Like Vex said, there's something going on there deeper.
Well, it's the second they are
a series of unfortunate.
But the second they're willing to not be basically kill on sight, barbaric, the second they're willing to shake hands and open doors to other cultures and whatnot, is the second I feel like somebody world government affiliated was like, now's the time, let's weasel our way in. We'll get them to play by our rules, we'll get them to, and so like I feel like all of this has kind of been culminating to present day, where we see Emu themselves in Gunko form, like actually
Harold was
taking
supposed
over.
to be the one to pass the power of Elbaph to Emu, and when he failed, like that's why Emu's so angry. He's like, I put 80 years into setting that up with you, and you messed it up.
Knowing about these prophecies that we've gotten, like there was talk of prophecies in Fishman Island with Madame Charlie and her crystal ball. There's talk of prophecies with Loki supposedly being someone to unalive his father, Harold, and things like that. There's so many. There's a half a dozen prophecies within this story. I feel like I feel like if all of these other figures knew that they were too soon, or that these other events were destined to happen in the past, it seems like a major oversight to me for Emu to not be privy to that, and to think that 14 years ago what went down with Harold would have gone down differently. So I'm wondering exactly where some of these prophecies come from and how that information is being kept from Emu. Because if you knew, like if Roger knew he was too soon, if Odin knew to wait for that fated night and the 20-year, jump with Toki and stuff like that, if these people on the side of the Dawn, if these people who were like more good aligned knew of these events and being too early and whatnot, why doesn't Emu?
No, it's
That's
a
like,
fair
it's
question.
stuck in my head right now. Is like, why would Emu not be, you know, on the same level of, and so I'm thinking that it might have something to do with Laughtail, being that with Roger and Odin, Laughtail is the common denominator there that Emu probably is not knowledgeable of, but like there's other prophecies. So I'm like,
You're
where,
right,
yeah, how, I don't know. It's very interesting. I'm wondering how Oda will have all of that play out, you know?
I mean,
Yep.
nice
Maybe
thing I
Emu's
guess-
creating these prophecies or like spreading false prophecies as a false prophet, I should say. Something along those lines.
or simplest fact is, if everything's cyclical, right? What the prophecies that Emu knows are basically after year 1 into the voice century. But maybe in Laughtail, you have the origin story, the original cycle. You know what I mean? Like maybe what Emu is analyzing is something that's basically already corrupted. So she could know about, Emu could know, he or she could know about certain stuff, but doesn't have the actual storyline. So every time it passes through Emu's hands. No,
It could be
inaccurate
false
information.
prophecies being put into the population as well
Yeah, anyway.
by Emu. With all the world government stuff though that you guys kept mentioning, I mean, it's pretty evident too with where Harold keeps saying keep getting blocked by the world government. That's probably a tactic, right? That they're using to control the actions of Elbaph without having place in Elbaph.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like it's like, think of like a gated community. Like, oh, we can't let you in.
Yeah.
Like, you can buy a house in here and then you'll be
HOA.
in. Or like it's like it's like an exclusive club. Like, you know, like you can't sit with us type shit. But like if you start drinking the Kool-Aid, then you can come and shake hands with all of our countries and stuff. So it's like a way of trying.
It's
like
a way to force their hand.
exactly, and him wanting to be friendly with all of these cultures, but maybe not necessarily wanting to sign everything away on the dotted line, is where he sees this friction in attempted diplomacy. So I think that that's probably most likely what's happening there, is because as a world government affiliated country, there are countries that you can trade with and do business with and interact with and travel to freely, and then there are not, you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
So, I do have something I want to bring up since we're at the end of the chapter. And it was the interaction between Ida and Harjuden when he's young, about Loki's birth.
Yeah. Go mad. This is awesome.
Yeah, and the way she reacted to the Harjuden's like negative energy, right?
She's just
This sounds-
positivity, man. She's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, so this is my thing, right? This sounds like a leap, and it is similar to that person's energy of Loki. We don't know what happened to her. If she's indeed still alive, do you think it is possible that Mosa could be Ida?
Yes. That's the best theory
Because
I
the
think
way
I've
she's
heard.
responding. Yeah.
Yep.
What if she's
Totally
Mosa?
agree.
Ooh,
That's why that
that'd be
person was so
totally agree.
caring, because she sees him as, because they share, her son is his brother. They could explain why Mosa was just like, oh come on Loki, I can sense some good in you. Like
Well-
that.
Yeah, I know there's good
Yeah.
in you. I,
Well, it's
I
not
know
just
your dad's
that.
in there.
It's them talking about how this traumatic experience from their past had shaped their outlook of the world.
Exactly.
And like we see that literally front and center in this chapter is several traumatic events happening to Ida and her taking it in stride and growing as a person. So I think that like, and I've heard a lot of people talking about this. I have not heard a single Mosa theory that I actually like until now, until this chapter.
Yeah,
And,
that's really good.
I'm not 100% sold on it, but another bit of fuel to the fire to what you're saying there, Kube, is if you say like Mosa in a bit of a different way, it kind of sounds like mother, like Mosa, mother. You know what I mean? Like so, like it's I don't know, like that's very loose, but you know, hey, it's a little bit of kindling, you know, to add to the fire.
And I do have a point, because this could be interesting, right? We are seeing that Harold that Ida met is very similar to Loki, right? This could explain why maybe Mosa is one of the people who don't believe about what happened to Harold. she knows that Loki would never harm because Harold would never do that as well. So he could, like, she's the only one who didn't want to ban Loki when everyone abandoned him. So I could see, because she actually loved Harold and she knows that Loki is just like Harold, and there's no only bone in his body that would do that to his own father. So food for thought.
The only thing that stops me from being 100% on board with it is mothers in One Piece never seem to be around.
Yeah, that's the one thing I'm scared of.
Especially good moms. Especially good
like,
moms.
Haruden ends up being a pirate. You know what I'm saying?
We heard in
I won't
1136.
let that happen.
Yeah, in 1136 we did hear that the queen, which they would not recognize Ida as a queen, so they're specifically referring to Estrid, had become unalive, and they blamed it on Loki, just like the with the horse of fortune or whatever, the Sleipnir looking 8-legged flaming thing. That thing is toast. Estrid and the horse did not make it to Rush Hour 3, and there are several other tragedies that were blamed on Loki, and that all culminates in the passing of Harold, which is what we'll get to after we're done with this flashback, possibly next chapter, maybe another one after that, I don't know, but it never explains the fate of Ida herself. She could very well still be, she could be off island somewhere, you know,
She'll be back home.
Maybe,
you know
I don't
mean?
think she could just be in an eastern village, like away or something, like, but like it doesn't ever explain what happened to her. And the first time we see Haruden, he's talking about how he wants to become king of the giants in a very like Luffy pilled kind of way, like, you know, like and he has like this huge responsibility on his shoulders, it feels like, in the Colosseum, to win that devil fruit, to become more powerful and go back home and things like that. Like, I do feel like he does have a mother figure that he's currently fighting for. I do feel like she's still around in some capacity, even if it's just this snail. But I mean, I'm very curious to see how this plays out. I have not enjoyed a single Mosa theory until now, especially especially not the Shirahoshi ones. Like, I'm sorry if you're if you're writing that theory and you're in chat right now, I'm so sorry, but I don't get it. I don't vibe with it, you know.
Yeah, me neither.
Like I said earlier, I do have, like, it's not really a theory of mine. I saw some takes on Facebook, of all places, about Loki and his devil fruit. And Nak had mentioned earlier a changeling, and I'm wondering if that will come into play for Loki's devil fruit. Because in Norse mythology, shapeshifting is like Loki's main thing. And then throughout a bunch of the color spreads, right, there's a dragon, a snake, a wolf, and I think a bear, and they all have Loki's color palette for his hair. And people are using that as evidence that he is a straw hat, and is going to be a straw hat, and Oda's going to he's been foreshadowing it by using those animals that Loki can shapeshift into. And I'm not 100% sold on it, but I really like that. Because if that is the case, and Oda retroactively had Loki throughout a bunch of color spreads throughout the whole series, I would just love that. That would just be freaking amazing. Because all of them have like the tongue hanging out and everything.
Yeah, I think it'd be
There's
interesting
a lot of good evidence for it.
he had like almost like a point system, like, you know, like a monster point, brain point, arm point, guard
Gorilla point.
Yeah, if he had like that kind of going on, and could kind of like wild shape a bit, like, I don't know, like how, like, I don't know what fruit he would have to facilitate such an ability, but I think that would be kind of cool, and it'd be like a huge parallel. Like, people have been saying how he parallels every single Straw Hat in several different ways, and like, that's not my idea, but I've seen a lot of people talking about that idea, and you can pick any single Straw Hat and find a parallel to what we were just given by Loki, you know.
Which would make sense in a final Straw Hat. Yeah, which would make sense for a final Straw Hat. And if I may, real quick, Cube, with the whole changeling aspect, you don't have to make that his own. Just because he changes into animal, like, think of the Mani Mani, or Katarina Devons is his own. Yeah. But it's, you know, it it allows you to change into other people. Same premise. It could just be a cracked paramecia that allows you to change into different animals or even objects, and he just uses it primarily for animals. It's just a shape-shifting fruit.
I have the name of the fruit. The the mythical Zoan, Hito no Mi, model Beast Boy from Teen Titans.
Oh my god.
Model Beastie Boys!
No. I do think that, I don't know, it's interesting because we do have to assume that this is something that, like, this is the devil fruit that has been passed down for generations of royalty throughout Elbaph's history. Is potentially the one, unless that went into the hammer, like we were talking about, and that maybe he had a different fruit entirely. I don't know, but like one way or the other, it's really interesting how to look at it, because we do see that at birth, before any of that, he was already ridiculously cracked, because this feat of climbing up the world tree, like from the underrealm,
surviving
like,
the fall even.
Yeah, so like this, he's
killing the bear.
What a
this
beast,
dude
bro.
is like, we saw Odin at 3 years of age, like, you know, just messing shit up. This guy is like not even a day old.
He's still covered in friggin'
Crazy.
And he's got like Grand Line, like Drum Kingdom Luffy feats right here, like climbing up the giant, like the Drum Rockies. Like, this is like, I don't know, this is crazy, right? Like,
it is crazy.
This is nuts, man.
And notice his first weapon isn't a hammer. I just want everybody to see he's using a club that looks an awful lot like Kaido's and Yamato's.
oh man.
Just saying.
This gives me this chapter gave me a lot of inversions with Frankie and Iceberg, with Harjuden and Loki. One brother almost giving up on him. He has a slimmer of hope for him. You could see that with Harjuden, even ever he's saying, and Loki being thrown overboard as a baby at what, 7-8 years old. Frankie getting hit by a sea train. Something that's
He was
supposed to be
12
like
when he got hit.
12? Yeah,
Oh.
still
No.
crazy.
When he got hit by the sea train, he was like 16, 17, around there.
Yeah, he was.
Maybe a little bit older even, yeah.
That was after Tom's.
Yeah, because that was when, Tom stuff. But no, I see what you're saying, and it's a really good point too.
You gave me some
Because
help,
I think that Iceberg and Hyjurden, they're like, I've mentioned it a couple times in chapter discussions where Hyjurden's, like, the way that Oda's drawing his facial expressions, you can feel just how much he's thinking about what's happening, and like he's trying to like see it from Loki's point of view or whatever, and he just can't. He can't get over that barrier. Like when Luffy said the whole like join my crew thing, you could see Hyjurden being like, okay, maybe this does work and I can release it.
He said you're acting off your gut. Straw hat.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
And so like it's like because he's putting such critical thought into this and he's thinking from the whole perspective of Elbaph, as opposed to thinking from Loki's perspective or from thinking from something that is solely his own perspective or like this person's brother's perspective, right? He's removing himself from that equation and trying to think from like a higher position. And that is a folly in this kind of like analysis, because Luffy, just going off of his gut, has, for what we are led to believe and from what I fully believe is the right call, and he did it off of instinct alone. And so it really does, like, I think, ground Haryuden in that moment. I think that once we get out of this flashback within a flashback and then the flashback itself, I think that Haryuden will legitimately accept Loki as a brother. And
I do too.
What I think is that, like, he's gonna, I don't know, and I'm envisioning this in my head, is that he's gonna maybe apologize. Loki's gonna be like, yeah, I don't need any of your apologies, because he's a very tough character to love. You know, he's not meant to be somebody we understand in the present day, and somebody that he's not yearning for those kinds of connections on the outside. And so there's gonna have to be a moment that is, I feel like, a much deeper than that. And I think what would be really interesting is if Luffy had, and I don't think Luffy would ever force them to do this, but if Luffy somehow suggests to them, like, you two should share sake cups. Like if you can't
So you two
accept
should
him,
fight.
no, but if you can't accept him as your brother because of your lineage together, you should do it
Yep.
as a warrior to warrior, as like as a man
Yeah.
to man. And like, so I think that that's like an external solution of amending their relationship as brothers is by finding another avenue to create that bond. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very well
Yeah,
said.
for real. But so I mentioned it earlier, and I want your guys' takes because I think I know where everybody stands now. But just for the audience, do you think Loki joins the Straw Hats? I am in the part that he doesn't.
Fleet, yes. Crew, no.
Right.
I'm on
in
the
that
fence.
exact spot.
I
think he's an ally,
at minimum.
But I think he has way more things to do than be a Straw Hat.
Listen,
This is like he
A
has
big-
either kingly responsibilities, pirate responsibilities, relationship responsibilities with Harridan. There's so much things he could do other than just be another crew member. in
No,
my
but like
opinion.
you got to think of this from the narrative's perspective. Is like we saw that Colin, when we first saw him in the events with Kid getting one tapped, and Shanks was like, "Oh, I gotta dip. I stayed too long," and stuff like that. Colin was looking up to Shanks, and that was like another Luffy type figure, right? That was so like, and so like
Yep.
he was like, "Hey, let me join your crew," and Shanks was like, "No, you're not cut out for it. You stay here and do little kid shit. We're gonna go be pirates." And like it's like you can't let Colin join the crew there because that kind of takes away from what Luffy was, 14 years in the past or whatever. And then you also look at, in that same vein, Loki was that Luffy parallel, but to rocks instead of Shanks. And like for him, he has his own aspirations to like, he wanted this thing it's I don't know, it just feels weird to me if he is accepted, because narratively I feel like Loki wants different things than that. And I don't think that it's the same as with Momo, where he has kingly responsibilities and that he wants to rule Elbaph and he has to stay here, like how Carrot couldn't join because of Zhao, and like how Momo obviously couldn't join because of Wano. I don't necessarily think that that is enough of a reason, but seeing the fact that he is his own Luffy parallel and whatnot, like I feel like him captaining his own crew makes the most sense.
Yeah, that's why I say I'm on the fence, is because I do believe that him kind of filling the Dory to Haijurden's Brogy is what will make the most sense, and then him joining the Grand Fleet. But with this backstory that we've got now, and then just like I said, a lot of that little bit of evidence, I like to entertain the idea that this is a very strong candidate to be Straw Hat. You know what I mean? I'm not 100% sold on it, but if it happens, I'm just like with when Bonnie was in discussion to be a Straw Hat. If it happens, I'm cool with it. If it doesn't, I'm also cool with it.
You.
So for me, I kind of told Mac before, but I don't see him as a full Straw Hat. But if you compare to Carrot, we got something similar with Yamato, is the way Oda is making efforts for him. So I could see him be more like closer to Momo Kinemon in Law, where he's not a one arc character.
Yeah.
Like there's definitely gonna be a more thing. Do I see him fully? I need to pick up more of his thing. The one thing that changes if he becomes a full Straw Hat was what we almost got with Yamato, which is getting all the flashback, everything, and then him in that flashback, he could just give up, but he's keeping hope because of a dream. That is something that all Straw Hats had. That is just different. So I could just see that regard. But for me, I could see him like, we know Yamato is going to finish the journal. That's why Yamato has to be laughed out with Luffy. I could see Loki and Yamato being with the Straw Hats, but not like commanders, but members, of the Grand Fleet, or with the ship on that quest. So I could see that's as much as I'm able to see.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I do. I enjoy to think about it. If I'm honest, I do like the idea, like you guys are saying, where he's kind of just crew adjacent, where, you know what I mean, like, because all of Wano is technically Straw Hats, right? Because they fly the Straw Hat flag. It's
Grand Fleet.
It's Grand Fleet, exactly. So I think that's probably where everyone, it sounds like, is landing at, is keep him in the Grand Fleet, Oda. Strawhead
Yeah.
AP, no!
I think that like you said earlier with Lil Ors Jr. being an allied captain to Whitebeard, I think that's as close as we're gonna get. Like, I don't see Loki bending the knee and accepting somebody else as his captain, just like I don't see him bending the knee and taking somebody else as his king. And I feel like he has his own ambitions and his own path that he is going to take. And maybe he doesn't have to do it with as big of a chip on his shoulder, because Luffy will show him kindness that only Mosa has really shown him in his entire life, potentially. And so maybe he will go a little bit less burdened down those paths, but I think that he is going down those paths regardless. It's like you don't see a character like Luffy who then gets introduced, you know, after, you know, so much of his character arc to this other character, and then, oh, he's just gonna go and do a completely different thing. I don't need to be king of the pirates anymore. In fact, my whole dream, let's just scrap that and let's just go and become somebody else's crewmate. That's not how that works.
Yeah.
So seeing him as such a strong Luffy parallel, I can only assume he will continue down the path that he has been set down his whole life, but maybe just do it with a bit of a smile on his face and some friends. Wouldn't that be cool? Like I like that so much more than if his entire character were to be just like a side character in somebody else's story. Like, he is bigger than that, I feel like, right?
I mean, he is definitely bigger. That's for sure.
All right, I think that brings us to final thoughts and ratings, if I'm correct. Who wants to go first?
I'll go.
Okay, well,
Go ahead,
you
go
can
ahead.
go first.
No, you go ahead, Kube.
Okay, so for rating, I really like the chapter. It's not a 9. For me, it's an 8. But obviously, with Baby Loki, I had to do it. For me, it's 8, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6,
Oh
6,
my
6, 6, 6.
You're
I had to do it for
foul.
Loki. But I am also my prediction is, because of the timeline, if we're going to get an add-on to the whole cake flashback. Because we are, Loki is born. That's where around the time we saw the Big Mom flashback, around 60 years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping we're getting more like payoff from what we saw in Whole Cake. More context with certain stuff. The other side.
No, I agree.
Like
I
the
think
aftermath of it and everything
there's
from
a
the Elbaph
lot-
side?
there's a lot of building backwards that Oda has done really tastefully throughout the story. There's been a lot of backstories that have done really well. I think that you look at the Odin and the Kuma flashbacks and things like that, and they are ridiculously powerful for the recontextualization of story events that they had achieved in so much time. The Odin flashback was like 14 and some change chapters long. The Kuma flashback was a little more than 8 chapters long, and here with the Herald flashback, in just like one panel and a chapter, so like barely a little over one chapter, I feel like we've gotten a ton. So I really appreciate this for what it provided to the context of Herald. I'm very much looking forward to a more Loki centric flashback and seeing how everything went down in that audience chamber with Herald that fateful day. Probably in the next chapter. It's crazy how Oda has boiled this flashback science down to like such a streamlined process. The pacing in this was really crazy. There were some really hard-hitting panels, some good comedy and some good tragedy, all wrapped in what I think this is a really, really, really well done chapter. More so than even some of the really action-packed and reveal-packed chapters we've been getting in present day Elbaph. I actually rate this one pretty high. I'm gonna give it like I want to give it like a straight up 9. I'm not even lying.
Ooh.
Can somebody check
Nice.
Vex's temperature? That's one of the highest. Like, check his temperature.
What? Why don't you check his temperature?
I'm chill.
I'm the content.
I'm chill, man. I just think this
No, well said.
this checked a lot of boxes that I am like,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
pacing wise, I have been fairly vocal about how the pacing has been inconsistent with modern day Elbaph events. here and there, and like we did a lot of jumping around in this flashback, but I think that it was all done really well. I like this a lot, and I'm a sucker for adding shit to the timeline. I really like seeing stuff that's
I
like,
love canon events.
yeah, and so like building backwards is what I think Oda does the best. Like everyone's always talking about the foreshadowing that he does, but I think that this is something that he's even stronger at, is like filling in the gaps, and I'm really happy to see a lot of that done here. Very well executed.
Totally agree.
Mac, how about you, brother? Were you rating
I gave it an 8.5 initially. I mean, on reflection, I probably enjoyed it even more the second time through. I love Harold. Harold is absolutely hilarious. I thought his design was badass last chapter, but this one was just so funny. I had so much fun with this. Especially, like Vex said, that is the best panel of the chapter.
When my man got slapped, and
he's like, "You hit me?" Like, oh, it's amazing.
I love her.
Your Majesty, like they're all like that, right? Like he just lost it.
It's so
so
good.
funny.
Comes up like strutting his shit. He's like, "Oh no, need to thank me. I'm just your humble and most
King of
humble king of Elbaph, you know." Yeah, a lot of emotion too, and yeah, I'd probably even like I'd bump it up to a 9, no problem.
Let's go,
Easy.
brother. Let's go.
Yep.
Yeah, that is exactly where I'm at. I read this chapter, actually. We were on stream on my channel playing D&D, and I was muted up reading it. And, like, I was tearing up a little bit, like, with everything with Loki and, like, throwing the child into the underworld. Yeah, 9 out of 10. Solid 9 out of 10 for me. And it's gotten better on each subsequent reread because I've noticed more things. Like, the Wano stuff, I didn't even think about that until we were on stream.
Oh,
Like, that is such a good catch, yeah. And then, you know, finding out potentially Saul's homeland, and then seeing where Haijurden gets his compassion from, which is a side of him we really didn't see until we got into the Elbaph arc, and seeing where he's at, and then, like I keep bringing up, the way that he's interacting with Loki now, I think a lot of that is mother coming through, wanting to believe in the good that's in his brother, even though it's hard to because Elbaph is there. Like Vex said, it's a major folly for him. The amount of information that we've gleaned from, like Vex said, once again, from just a panel and one chapter is insane. We now know how amazing,
baby.
Yeah, amazing of a King Harold. We know how wonderful of a mother Ida is. We know where Haijurden is getting that ability to tap into his emotional side. We know why Loki is so jaded. Like,
the
all
last
of that
panel
from one chapter, insane.
Yeah, the last panel of last chapter was calling him absolute scum. And here we are fully understanding of how he ended up becoming Elbaph's most cherished king. And like, it's what a whirlwind this chapter was. And like, it feels like downtime. It feels chill. It feels like not anything super major, and it makes it a lot of like a breath of fresh air, because we're in some pretty heavy shit in the present day right now, right? And like it feels crazy because this is like such a departure from what we're getting, but it's just as impactful and important when you really analyze it. Like, context wise, this is stuff that we need to see and need to know to fully grasp like this character who will undoubtedly be pivotal. And like, that's the thing as well, as a lot of people are like, Loki for Grand Fleet, Loki for Straw Hat. We're not even sure he survives all of this. Let's be real. But like, if he does, and now I'm rooting for him. I'm legitimately rooting for him now, which, you know, I could have said that before this chapter, but I wouldn't have had much ground to stand on. Now I feel like I have
hashtag Loki deserves a happy ending.
I don't know. I think that there's so much work that this chapter did, and like, it feels like if you were to just look at this in a vacuum, you know, you might rate this chapter more middlingly than I feel like a lot of us did. But in the middle of everything that we've been getting, for us to see this right here and there, and for it to hit as hard as it did, and for it to feel as well executed as it did in so few pages and so few panels, this was crazy. Is it on par with Kuma flashback, Bonnie flashback? Absolutely not. But like, that's so unfair because there was so much
No,
more.
you want them to be different, right?
Yeah, there's
That
so
one
much more
just is
time.
emotional.
Yeah, and
craziness.
so like this is
Yeah.
something that we ourselves are a lot less aligned with out the gate. We knew who Bonnie was hundreds of chapters before we set foot on Egghead. We just figured out who the hell Loki is, right? And we're still figuring that out, you know. So we knew who Kuma was since pre-time skip, like, but we just figured this out, and we didn't get much characterization from even Dori, Brogi, Omokashi, and Hyruden and things like that, like in Stanzen. We didn't really get much. These were semi-stoic figures, or if they were like more boisterous, like Dori and Brogi were very in your face, but they were self-contained to that one very small chunk of the story for such a long time. The most characterization we got was from Saul, and for us to get a little bit more of that here, as well as, you know, framing of the rest of these Elbaph figures, it's huge. This did so
Massive.
much. Like on paper, if you were to just look at this, it's not as impressive, but really within the full context, this is a massive chapter, and I love how
It
Oda's
really is.
able to pull that off.
Yeah, like I said, it's with how much information we gathered about so many different characters. Like, we were all on the fence about how Yarul and Ural would have, you know, seen the changes made in Elbaph, and we got this chapter. They were cool with it. They were just like, haha, yeah, I guess it's gonna be rough. You know what I mean? Like, there's just, yeah, Oda used every bit of the pages here.
Yeah, and so to tie that in with like winding things up and ending the stream very shortly, I wanted to ask before we got our ratings and our final thoughts. How many more chapters do you think we're gonna get of flashbacks? Are we done with Herald? And if we are, how many flashback chapters do we get for Loki? What do you guys think?
I think we got 2 more for Harold at max, so like 1 minimum, and then at least 2 for Loki, if not 3. So
You
I think
think
5
so?
chapters from now we'll end the whole flashback. Yeah.
Crazy. What about Kube? You got one? You got a guess?
Yeah, so I don't know how long, but I do feel like before we get more to Loki, obviously we're gonna get similar to Dressrosa. We got side by side of Flamingo and Lala was happening at the same exact time. So I could see that with Loki and Harold, because I'm still convinced either we'll get more of a rocks lore dump in the flashback that follows,
Let's go.
but I could see someone else showing up, Clover, because the
Why?
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
flashback
Why?
started 2 years before Clover's birth. 109 years ago. Clover is 107.
Yeah.
So I could see Clover.
Wild.
Yeah, so I could see Clover
Insane.
also being involved.
People were
Because
talking
no one
about
talks about
Kureha.
Clover.
Let's get Kureha in on this too. But no, yeah.
as well.
Yeah!
What about
the entire old guard is on Elbaph next chapter?
what about you,
Yeah,
Nick?
right. That,
How many more flashback chapters you think we got Harold and
Jeez.
Loki?
It's got to end on the incident. So, and we're what, 6 years out? At least another 3 or 4. I'd
think
push it
so?
a little further than that, but yeah. See,
I
you
don't
say
know,
that.
y'all.
I know,
like
right?
with how much time passed this chapter, I honestly feel like we get 1 or 2 more panels of Harold, and the entire next chapter is probably devoted to
Is
Loki,
Loki.
and we might wrap it up next chapter. I actually think
Yeah.
with how things were paced this chapter, I originally, before reading this, thought, yeah, we're probably getting like about 4 more. Like, I think was exactly around what Lucas had said. Like, I think we're probably getting like 4 more chapters of this, because like I said, Oda's getting it down to a science. From Odin to Kuma to this, like there's been, like, I feel like there is definitely a lot of condensing of events and streamlining of things, but
Yep.
I don't think he's sacrificing quality. I think he's nailing it. But I honestly
do
could
too.
see this wrapping up next chapter based off of what we just got this chapter.
Winston, I see in chat you said we need to see Harold rip off his horns. I don't know if we
Yeah.
need to see that
I
specifically.
would love
though.
to, and I think that's what
I
we'll
would love
get.
to see-
Yeah.
What caused
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
I think
Yeah, we
that
need
like
the
we'll
reason.
get
We need the reason, yeah.
we'll get like 1 page maybe, I think,
Mm-hmm.
of Harold next chapter, and in so many panels that you can fit on that page, I think we'll get to the point where he rips his horns off, and then I think the rest of it will be Loki centered, but Harold will still be in it up until that fateful day, right?
Maybe even some Lola Loki lore. That'd be cool.
I don't actually need that. I mean, if we get it, I'm not mad, but I don't think we need that.
Yeah.
But because it's very recent comparatively. But I could honestly see that if it lasts more than one more chapter, I think we're done with Harold for the most part. And I think that we'll see very soon into the next chapter the transition to this being fully about Loki, which I think this last panel here signifies, right?
Yeah.
Right, because we started this with a Loki flashback, and then the narrator cut in to tell us about Harold.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're
Up
back at
until
the
Loki's
Loki
birth.
flashback.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're probably
Exactly.
totally not getting a lot more of Harold.
Yeah, that's how I see it. So we'll see how Oda pulls it off. I'm very excited. I honestly don't mind if he takes 10 more chapters to give us all of this, like as long as it all feels like this, you know what I mean? But if I do anticipate we're probably going to be back to present day Elbaph sooner rather than later. Either way, I'm going to be happy with it though, I feel like.
I can agree.
Yeah, with
All right,
that
with
being
that-
Narrator
said,
even kicks back in here at the end, like the way it started. I honestly think this could be the end of the Harold story.
The Harold
and we
section.
for
get some
sure.
more.
Yeah, that's what I believe. But like with all that being said, we've been the Eternal Dawn. This has been a ton of fun. Make sure you guys like the stream, leave a comment if you're watching this in the future. We love you. You're goated. Tell us your favorite takes. And thank you all for being here in the chat. Make sure you guys join the Discord, link in the description. Make sure you guys check out Rambling Addiction on Lucas's channel, link in the description. And yeah, it's been a ton of fun. Captain, you want to sign us off?
Yeah, we'll see y'all at the next